All right, welcome to our maiden podcast. This is What Were We Just Talking About? I am Rev Ron Mullins. I write for Dope Magazine. I'm an activist. I work with Sacramento Normal and Brownie Mary Democrats. Um, this is my first podcast, and we are going to be talking about cultivation today. I wanted to start off with a little bit of news of what's going on, just a little informal uh, uh, just me telling you what's going, paraphrasing of what I've seen going on in the news. So we'll start federally. Big news. Oh, I'm going to introduce, in case you guys have anything to interject on the news, we have some guests today in our C.H.E.S.S.Lounge studio.
Yay!
Yes, that's Heidi Grossman. Say hello. And we have Joaquin Brand. I'm sorry, the Clone Daddy. I already said it. The Clone Daddy, who's going to talk about cloning. Yeah. So Heidi, just real quick, thanks for coming in. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Clone Daddy, you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we're gonna go into the news.
I've been an activist for almost 10 years now. I graduated Oaksterdam University in 2009, and that was the most awesome experience. And I highly recommend everybody go to Oaksterdam. But anyway, so now I have my own company. It's a nonprofit mutual benefit. And what we do is we help people get their compliance binders for their collectives or their cooperatives, because we are allowed to grow and sell marijuana in the state of California if you're a qualified medical patient. And we help with bookkeeping and taxes, things like that. And I am the secretary at Sacramento Normal.
Excellent. And Clone Daddy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I got into basically helping open up the store in Sacramento in 2003 or 2004, the one on Folsom, and then I got into doing clones, and I've been pretty much doing that every season since. They bought me some land and have been in the cannabis industry since 2004 and an activist.
All right. Well, I thank you guys for coming in, and I also want to give a shout out to Real One, who had that opening music we played. Heidi brought that in, and you can find Real One. It looks like on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, the whole thing, at Real One 209. That's the word real, REAL. The word one, ONE 209, REALONE 209. And we'll put that up in the comments section of this podcast later when we get our stuff together. So we're starting with the federal news. There's been a lot going on federally. We got a presidential election coming up, and there's a lot of states that are going to try to go legal. And we have a rogue DEA, which we're having sex parties, apparently funded by cartels. In fact, over there on the printer, Clone Daddy, is this report that I printed out. So I'm going to be looking through that. Maybe we'll be commenting on that later. But basically, all kinds of malfeasance going on in the DEA. And the DEA had Michelle Lionheart stepped down, and she has been replaced.
Yay!
Yay! Does anybody know the replacement's name?
I do not.
I read it yesterday, so we're going to play a little game of who can find it first.
All right.
We all got our phones out, and this is something we hopefully won't have to play a lot because we'll be prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, I've got the right shirt on. I've got my Mary Jane smoker.
I am going to use Google. Shout out to Google. And I am using new DEA head, and I found it. The new DEA head is named Mr. Rosenberg. Now, I did comb last night looking for articles, particularly articles from our community, to let us know what this Goldberg announcement means. So far, no one has really given a lot of comment on it. But when we see changes in policy, like we've seen with the president, who has had a drawing down or a softening of his policy, which just a couple of years ago during an election cycle was referred to as the crackdown. Now we're having Department of Justice heads being instructed to try to work out deals with banks. We have a point-by-point instruction of how they're going to enforce. We have defunding of DEA through the budget. And now, hopefully, this Chuck Rosenberg, formerly of the FBI, chief of staff, has been appointed as acting head of the DEA. So we'll watch for changes there. We know that some organizations were lobbying the Obama administration to appoint someone who would be more amenable to medical marijuana. Oh, we just have been joined by Clunk, who is another grower friend of ours. Say hi, Clunk.
Hi.
All right, he's kind of a shy grower, but we'll talk to him about his growing there in a minute. So, okay, and then statewide news, we got Gavin Newsom. Full disclosure, I'm a huge fan. He has appointed a blue ribbon commission. We need like a little sound effect. Do, 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 do. And you know what the Simpsons said during there was a joke where their government was getting a blue ribbon panel, and it's basically, if you want to pretend like you're doing something, just do a blue ribbon panel. I'm a little more optimistic that this blue ribbon panel will indeed
I think we
have effect on policy. Now, if you're interested, you want to go to www.safe_smartpolicy.org, and we'll be posting that link on our comments here shortly. And that is where you can go in and watch the last meeting that they had, and put comments and ask a questionnaire. And it's surprising that last I looked on there was like 9 people that did it. So you could actually have an influence on your government here in the state and how they're going to basically recommend to regulate cannabis in a legal context for full adult personal use by answering those questionnaires. And you can also participate in Gavin Newsom's blue ribbon panel on marijuana policy on May the 19th. What's the date on the May the 19th? We got a stoner room. Nobody knows it by heart. We'll find out in a second. May 19th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the 8711 MacArthur Boulevard. It's called Youth Uprising. And it's a what day of the week?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. So next Tuesday, if you can get to Oakland by 10:30 in the morning, 8711 MacArthur Boulevard, you can also participate and speak and ask questions of this blue ribbon panel. And it is going to be this blue ribbon panel that's probably quite influential in our state government. Here locally in Sacramento, we've had no shift in policy. We've had no major problems. So, you know, locally, I'd probably report in what something that recently happened in the Capitol. There was a bill that was trying to get passed that would require a mouth swab test. It was being billed as a breathalyzer test. And the idea was you're going to take a cotton swab and rub it in someone's mouth and know how impaired they are. Well, it doesn't show impairment. It shows the presence of a chemical. Okay, and we all know that the presence of that particular chemical, THC, can vary on its effect on people. So basically what ended up happening was the person who tested positive quite high was clearly not impaired. And the news picked up on this. And I think even the author of the bill, Lackey, was kind of taken aback by the level that this guy tested at. So ultimately what it did is it thwarted the bill. Do we have an applause? Yeah, hit the clapping hand.
Yay!
Yeah. Hit the clapping hand. There you go. All right. Well, anyways, yay.
No,
We won one.
It works. You can't hear it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll just take your word for it from now on. All right. So that's kind of a basic brush over glance at the news from my perspective. If anybody's listening and you have questions right now, we only have it set up to comment. Don't put that in my ear. We only have it set up to comment in the comment section on YouTube. I am going to go onto my Facebook. If people don't know how to use the YouTube comments, you can, and you know me already on Facebook, you can chat me that way. And then we're going to have a Twitter set up for what were we just talking about, but it's not set up just yet. So I want to go ahead and just kind of talk a little bit about cultivation. All right. When do you have plants in the ground now?
I've got 50, 60 of them. I don't know.
Okay.
7.
And would you say, is it safe to say that most people have their plants already in the ground or in pots?
Should.
Okay, for the outdoor growth cycle.
Well, you know what? There's a way to do it later too.
Right now is like the perfect.
Right now is the
Okay.
best time.
It's
all right. Now, what do you say? Okay, so let's say somebody's listening to our show right now and they've never grown before, and they want to maybe grow 2 small plants. I can tell them what their liability is legally. Can you tell me if it's possible? What kind of step by step they would want to do?
It's easy. They could start off with a 1-gallon pot to get the starters. Water them for a couple weeks, and then get a bigger pot.
What's a starter? Is that like a clone?
A clone. That's what a clone would be. It's going to starter plant, and go ahead and put that into the 1-gallon pot. Water for about a week or so, and you're ready to put it into a larger pot.
Well, let's start from the beginning then. I want a starter. So I go to my club, and they got a shelf, and they got a light. Okay, what am I looking for? What do I want? Obviously,
it's your preference whether or not you want an indica or a sativa. If you want a sativa, most likely you're going to have to add a couple extra weeks to your flowering cycle, so you'll be looking at finishing later in October, unless you have an early finisher.
Okay, so what about bugs, contaminants, clones that aren't rooted? Are there things you could recommend that people look for, or you, Heidi, or you Clunk, or you Clone Daddy, for when they're purchasing their clones?
Yeah, usually if you have other plants, you want to make sure you quarantine them and make sure they have no bugs on them for about 3 days.
Yeah.
That's why I stick them in my bathroom.
So you can't see it with the eye. It's
No,
something that could
wanna,
develop even you didn't see it.
Right, and you want to always make sure you have your water pH tested. And
now, is this about spots? Is that when you quarantine them and you're looking at them? Is it you looking for little bugs?
Bugs or any kind of disease, fungus.
And you can get like a loop or some kind of electronic magnifier, right?
Yeah,
That's not always going to help you, but it's good to look.
Yeah.
It's better to go ahead and, once you get them, to treat them.
Yeah, I usually
just treat them and act like you have problems.
Say that again. Neem oil.
Yeah, I've used
neem
oil.
All right, kids. Neem oil. That's the one.
Or safer too. The 3.
And that's organic, right? It's like a herb.
All organic.
Neem.
Keep your plants organic because you're going to be consuming them.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not a grower, but I am an herbalist, and we use neem in healing too. It's a powerful healing.
It doesn't kill the bugs, but it will deter them from growing on the plant.
Right. Now, so you go and you buy your clones and you're growing them. This is something that's always befuddled me. I've never actually brought decent plants to fruition. I have, what's the word, flowering. I got one time I grew a plant outside and I got like a quarter off of it. I think somebody was ripping buds off it or whatever. But one of the things that's always bewildered me is this idea that, so you're supposed to watch it and make sure it doesn't become a boy.
Well, if you're getting clones, they're female.
You're going to
feminized clones. Okay, so you want to ask and make sure they're feminized.
They're not feminized. You can get feminized seeds that will only.
Okay, so that's right.
Seeds.
So if you grow from seed,
right,
part of your risk is a boy.
50% males, yeah.
All right, you've been awful quiet, Clunk. Why is a boy marijuana plant bad?
It's not necessarily bad. There are uses for it as far as perpetuating genetic lineage for different strains, but it's bad in the sense that you don't want your plants to be full of seeds.
Right, seeds are the key. So, Clone Daddy,
them, yeah.
Yes.
Do you use seed or do you use clones?
I will usually use clones from a good stock, from a good seed stock, or from a recognized seed stock.
So how do we know how do we make sure the clones are girls? You just because of the mother is a girl, therefore its clones are
your reputable source.
I'm not being facetious. I really don't know any of this.
The cuttings that come off the mother, those are female. So you know for 100% that they're female.
Okay. Now, just so you're going to go and you're not. We're obviously not going to teach people how to grow, but you can get books by Ed Rosenthal. Is there any other authors?
Well, my favorite strain and my favorite genetics are TGA seeds. They have the largest yield on record last year, which was 25.
TGA?
Yeah,
Short for?
TGAgenetics.com. And you can go online and Google 25 plants. Well, they were kind of trees. 618 pounds. So I highly recommend those genetics if you're growing outdoors and indoors too.
So if you're just joining us, what were we just talking about? Well, we're talking about cultivation. So you can get a book, you can take a class. Oaksterdam has classes.
Yep.
Some of the dispensaries I hear have classes. You can grow. Now, let's talk about legal liability roughly here, and then we'll shift back into cultivation, harvesting, which maybe we'll save till later in the summer, but depending on time, we'll get into harvesting. So we are in Sacramento. Do we all live in Sacramento?
Yay.
All of us lived in Sacramento. Okay. Sacramento in 2012 passed an outdoor cultivation ban and created an indoor cultivation regulatory scheme that is quite confusing. And I have actually tried a couple of times to get someone on the phone and sort out and untangle the how exactly, step by step, maybe write it in an article or whatever, how to grow indoors legally. And so, but one of the things they said was, well, you don't always need a lighting plan. Yet I still haven't got my hands on anything on the web that says how many plants till you do need a lighting plan, or how many wattages or whatever else. So if anybody out there knows anybody who has gone through the city lighting plan, I'd like them to contact me, and I'd like to interview them either on the air or just in private for my own information so I can understand it. I want to be able to shed some light on that process. Now, what I can say about the city of Sacramento is, as a person who works with Sacramento Normal, I've answered their phone line before from last harvest, and sometimes I'd receive up to 6 to 7 phone calls a day about people being harassed in the county, in the unincorporated parts of Sacramento, who have an indoor-outdoor across the board ban. Correct? Or did they allowed indoor?
I think you're allowed 3,800 watts in West Sacramento.
Okay, so they have a regulatory scheme for indoor and an outdoor ban. So last year, they went through unlocked gates. They used intimidation tactics. They didn't identify themselves. And they harassed a lot of people. I got a lot of calls. I never got a call from the city. Okay? So whatever's happening, they're not going after somebody with 1 or 2 plants out on their patio. If you do grow, you are not a criminal, like a person who's harmed someone. You are a civil. You're being civilly disobedient, and you're doing an infraction. And in most cases, and even in the county, you'll get a letter. So if you're thinking about growing, you want to do it in a way that doesn't disturb your neighbors in Sacramento, and you want to, if something happens, you want to contact somebody like Normal or ASA, because they may force you to pull up your plants. There were no cases, except unless I heard there was like accused of stealing. There was one where they were accused of stealing power, but in most cases it was all civil. It was people coming and talking to them, threatening letters, fines. There was no commandos coming through. Now, in the outer areas of Sacramento, there's so many things going on. Yuba, Placer, El Dorado. Those are 3 places you've been recently, right, Heidi? Shasta. Can you tell me just briefly about any of those in our kind of general vicinity, that what's going on with their growing ordinances and how they're enforcing it?
Well, they banned them. I haven't heard any stories yet about how they have enforced in Yuba, because I know Yuba is a horrible city to be in right now, or a horrible county. They had a complete ban and an urgency ordinance based on water findings. Well, in fact, that water was being sold to different counties. So they're also recalling Andy Vasquez's seat too in Yuba. But Placer, they let outdoor go. So
I read that on
was a
Facebook.
big-
What does
It's a
that
real
mean? What does that
serious
mean?
recall effort, right?
right. They're
It's okay in
recalling
Placer?
is the yeah. Actually, they're okay with small. They said respect the don't cause any
Now,
environmental
Plaster, tell us a little bit
damage.
about you and Shelby Lucero and Heidi. You're Heidi and Jackie McGowan.
Yeah, and Kim Cargile was there too.
Kim Cargile, Richard Miller.
Richard Miller was there. We all spoke on behalf of the patients, and they listened and they heard us, and they finally just said, "Okay, we're going to stop public comment." It was Duran. Duran was the supervisor, and he said, "I'm just going to make a motion, and that we stop public comment and we allow the outdoor."
Excellent.
So that
excellent.
was awesome because they recognize there's patients there that need their medication, and those farms that are operating, a lot of them up there are totally legal. They have their paperwork in order. They have their scripts stacked. They've got their patients. There's places out there with 1,800 patients, and a lot of those grows are providing the dispensaries with outdoor medication.
Yep.
So they need to be there. We need that. We need that medication to go to the right places and not on the black market.
Well, Clone Daddy, you know people growing in Butte, right? You've been following Butte County law. Can you give me a little brief summary of that?
Well, from what I understood, a group of people hired some lawyers to take Butte County to task for their unscrupulous, unlawful ban that they were putting on the people regarding fee and all these different rules that was going to make it virtually impossible for some people who had heavy medical needs to be able to actually farm, to actually be able to do anything. So there's a team of lawyers who took the county to task for this, and I guess what happened was they just upheld it. What I found was they're still upholding it, which is totally not
against our civil rights.
Yeah, it's totally not it's not lawful for them to be doing this. They're basically rewriting their own law and deciding, well, it's okay. We all decide it's okay, which isn't cool. That's not democracy.
Now, let's talk bans. Okay, there's cities with bans. In most cases, when the word ban comes into play, it refers to a land use type of law, right?
That's like in Livermore. They have land use, so they shut the Pure Life or Tree of Life Collective got shut down in Livermore, and then we had another one up in El Dorado County. The Pure Life Collective got shut down too. So they're still out there raiding and arresting people.
In El Dorado.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, and it's so like in some counties they're not arresting, other ones they're treating it not like it's a civil issue, but like a criminal issue. Yeah. There and even in counties where it's a civil issue, sometimes they'll cross some serious boundaries, and they'll use CPS. There was a case in what county where they're training? Was it Yuba?
Oh, that was was horrible. That was first responders training group, and they included anybody that goes in on a raid, even like EMTs, district attorneys, to come and learn how to take children away from marijuana grows. I mean, I agree they should be searching for those meth heads, but they need to start leaving these patients alone.
And there was a lot of focus on cannabis and how to tell what there's a grow.
Well, to them, they're all illegal and they don't want them there. So
right. So basically, yeah.
And they're not following the law because the Attorney General guidelines clearly state that we are allowed to sell our medication to qualified members and that we are allowed to organize as any other business does. So
absolutely. And I think what's emboldened a lot of these counties was this so-called crackdown, and there's a lot of stories about malfeasance and back channeling money from the feds, and people are getting kind of basically paid off to try and attack grows. I've heard there was some what do you call them? Mercenaries? Hired guns that went out into some of the farms and raided them. So it's still serious.
I had them on my farm too. When I had 15 men with assault rifles, protecting me from my plants. Mm-hmm. Thank God, right? So anyway, they came in, and there was 2 of them that were unidentified. They had absolutely no markings on them except they were all in black.
Yeah.
So, and I had the Fish and Game and the Yuba County sheriffs at my house, And the sad thing is, I lost one of my patients, one of our activist heroes up north, James Benno. He was raided in 2012 or 13.
Now, Benno, I followed that
2013.
case on Facebook.
Or that was 2014. Yeah. So he was raided like 6 weeks right before I was raided. And so I was taking some of his patients. I went out there and I said, hey, I'm going to have a property and I've got something going on. So I can help those kids, let me know. So anyway, we ended up losing one. So Spencer had his medication stolen from him twice by the sheriff's department. And I hope I hope the family files a wrongful death suit against Shasta County.
Well, and that's why they get away with these things, is because they profile our community stoners as not being highly motivated. Therefore, we're not going to get a lawyer. We're not going to sue them. So the more we stand up for ourselves, just like in the classic bully scenario, when you start fighting back, the bully isn't that invested in what they're doing. They're just doing it because you're not fighting back.
Right.
Let's move on. If you're just tuning in, this is What Were We Just Talking About? I'm Reverend Ron Mullins, and I am hosting a little roundtable discussion. We have Heidi Grossman from Sugarleaf Productions.
Hi.
We have Clunk, personal friend and grower that I know, and we have the Clone Daddy. And we are talking cultivation. We've been talking a little bit about the law. Now, our producer, I forgot to introduce our producer, Wisecraft.
Hello.
Hello. Right. He's putting everything together and he's been doing a great job. Generally, we're going to have more graphics and stuff. I wasn't really that prepared. And hopefully we have another guest coming here soon in a minute. But so on the serious issue of cultivation, we have the very, very serious issue of water. Okay. And recently, and you're going to hear me use this word a lot, cannaphobes, that is people, it's a real thing. It's people who have been mentally programmed by the reefer madness generation to think that a harmless plant is so dangerous that it should be on a categorization with heroin. Cannaphobes actually, literally, what were we just talking about? Oh, cannaphobes have been trying to tie the water shortage to cannabis. Now, I happen to know, because I'm friends with, shout out to Andy Kahn, who has been fighting against things like Nestle bottling our water and selling it back to us for 10,000% and other things. And, he noted this morning when we were talking out of his yard sale that he's having over there at 4th and E Street in West Sac. He wanted me to let you guys know it's going on tomorrow and Sunday. All the proceeds are going to benefit the downtown dinner. They cook dinner for the homeless and serve it right in front of the city hall, in defiance of the public feeding law, every Tuesday at 4:00. It's a great protest.
I've been there.
And if you want to support it and get some cool junk, go down to the West Sac. Go look on What Were We Just Talking About Facebook page, or I'll post the post. We'll make sure to post in the comments here. Their post. I'm pretty sure it's on E Street. Actually, I made the poster, so I have it here somewhere. But that's a rummage sale. And again, I forgot. I got it. What were we just talking about? I got to backtrack. I was talking about Andy Kahn was telling me that agriculture hasn't even been told to pare back yet in California. Agriculture is still not considered that big of a problem, but for some reason, marijuana agriculture is going to be tied in. Have you seen that with was it Yuba that recently tried to use that as their drought?
That was on their emergency findings, and then the sheriff's department said they needed $700,000 to eradicate illegal cannabis grows. And so somehow they just end up selling $750,000 of water. So I want to find out where that money went.
Yeah, that's good. Now let's talk water.
I believe the sheriff got it.
Clone Daddy, do you plan on having any kind of difficulty with your grow this year due to water constraints?
We'll probably either have our water trucked in or drill a well.
And you think you're going to use less water this year than normal?
I'm going to be definitely more conscious about my water use for sure.
Have you had any warnings.
No.
I know in that area.
Yes, in my area, we're not going to be able to work the way we normally have, but that's okay. That's fine.
So what about water? Is it going to be expensive to have it trucked in?
Yes, but you buy a 10,000 gallon container and then have 10,000, and then you're set up for a while.
Well, and I think what we need to, and Andy and I were talking about this hashtag no water, no weed. The reality is that if California drought continues on this steady decline of water, we're not going to even be able to grow almonds or weed. So conservation is the key. Um, we want everybody on every level, from personal level all the way up, to conserve. And then also to challenge your local governments with regard to how they're allowing water to be sold. Andy Kahn and some of the 99% group went and lobbied our city council, created awareness, and then shut down the Nestle plant. And then in doing so, didn't even have to Ethos from Starbucks voluntarily closed down. So there's with stories like Walmart is bottling water right out of Sacramento Municipal and reselling it to people in Sacramento. And then fracking. Fracking hasn't even been mentioned, but there are cities that have had to like abandon their spot because they have no more water, right? I just heard about that. There was a city that actually has no more water because of fracking. Have you guys heard that one?
No.
Okay, well, I don't have the details on that. I did read it online, so we will scratch that till later. So we're gonna run the show all the way till 5:20, and we got about 27 minutes left. So I want to switch gears to talking just a little bit about Heidi. Will you help him pull up your Facebook page? I want to share.
Oh, yeah.
I want to share the Facebook page. We're going to talk a little bit about Sugar Leaf, okay? And then if
I've got a website.
Yeah, pull up anything you want us, and we can share it on the screen. And while she's doing that, I'm going to just say, and then we also had, I actually had I'm going to talk about the show real quick. So this show is just really, it's an independent venture. I do work with a lot of different groups, but the main focus of this show is to try to be fun, try to be informative, and try to pass the word around. And so it's but it's also going to be quite, informal. Now, I just forgot where I was going with this again. I did have some notes here. I should probably pull them out. But we want participation. We want people to recommend people to come on the show. We want all different kinds of stuff. Oh, plugging. Right now, this is just my computer, Wisecraft's computer. We're at our house. We call it the C.H.E.S.S.Lounge, and sometimes we'll be podcasting from a place where I intern called CCIA, California Cannabis Industry Association. But right now, there's no money or anything like that. So when we do shout outs, grassroots. So when we do shout outs or such, it's only because it's a product that we believe in. Now, that's not to say later we're not going to let someone come on and talk about their product and give us stuff or anything like that. But we're gonna right now just kind of recommend stuff, so we could be a resource of finding like a product that really works, that's free of all the advertising bullshit. That was my segueing to Clever Tree, this delivery service that I used the other day, and I interviewed him for Dope Magazine. But that aside, I was really impressed by the medicine. I was impressed by the app, and I was impressed by the whole experience. Okay, and I'm a little leery of delivery services because the fact of the matter is, in Sacramento, all you need is a couple grand to get an ad in the local pot rag, and got some weed and a car and a phone, and you're a delivery service. There's no Better Bud Bureau. There's no the city has a ban, so technically they're kind of working outside of the law, but most of them are going to be working as mobile dispensaries and have all the dispensary paperwork intact. And there's lobbying going on that's going to bring that, hopefully bring it around, bring it legal. But the delivery service Clever Tree came to my door in 14 minutes. I had put my thing in the app, and I'll admit I'm kind of what do you call it, identity theft paranoia guy. And so I actually was redacted my driver's license number, and they still signed me up, and I was able to fill out my ID. And then 20 minutes later I got a text and said you're a member. So I ordered, and it took 14 minutes. It was awesome. So anyways, Pedro, the one of the partner founders of that, is supposed to come by later. So if he does come by, hopefully he'll bring some good meds. What?
Delivery service?
Yeah, for the delivery service. But he's also a grower. In fact, the meds that I tried were really excellent, and he does some indoor growing. So hopefully Pedro gets here before we end this at 5:20. And no whispering. Tell me later. Throw me off. So what were we just talking about? We're going to talk about Sugarleaf Productions, and go ahead and share, and she can hit next and share some of the photos, and we'll talk just a little bit about Sugarleaf with Heidi Grossman. Go ahead, Heidi.
What am I supposed to do? Oh,
you're going to talk about Sugarleaf, and you can share the different pictures that you have there.
I also started because before I started my paralegal work in the cannabis industry, I was doing Photoshop shoots and stuff like that, just to help bring awareness to the drug war and cannabis. So this is my Princess Warrior Indian. That one's fuck cancer. And
Clunk, you got to get around and see this. Oh, you watch it on your phone?
And so
wow. Are you the photographer on these?
No, I don't do the photography.
So,
I do everything but the photography.
So the makeup you did?
I do all that, yeah.
Wow.
And this
I do photography too for Dope Magazine and other places. So
this one was in honor of Jack Hare. I actually did a calendar, a Stoner Girls calendar for 2012.
Oh, I love it.
And so that was, and there's Jack right there. And that's actually Cliff Maynard's art.
I've seen that. Yeah.
He does that with the roaches.
Yeah, I seen him in action at Hemp Fest 20. When was it the first year that weed was legal? 2012.
And that was when Ron Paul was running in 2012. I love Ron Paul.
Ron Paul, yeah.
And we're domestic terrorists, so that's all paint too.
That's real, clothes. Right? That's real one.
Yeah, those are not clothes. That's paint.
Shout out to Real One.
That's
he's a rapper activist.
You?
That's not me.
Who painted that?
Me.
You painted all that stuff that made it look like it was
an outfit.
That's dope.
Nice.
That's really
wow.
really badass. That's
artiste.
Cool. All that?
Just the belt wasn't, because I had the feathers.
Was that a stencil where you wrote Ron Paul?
That was diamonds.
Oh. You just bought
and this
sticker
one
sheets.
I did in honor of ASA, and when they were doing when Joe Elford went to try to get cannabis rescheduled, this one was called Stop Clowning Around.
Oh,
you
wow.
do that face work?
And that's Miss High Times 2013. Yeah, I do it all.
I don't know if this was on purpose, but that sometime, I think it was in 2010, there was a report that one of the DEA agents raiding a club, I think it was in Colorado, took one of the girls' printed tees and put it on and pranced around saying, "Oh," and somebody videoed it, and he got caught and he got in trouble. But it just kind of reminds me of that, how this is almost like a game to them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's our lives being destroyed.
This was what
the woman in the green, is that a dress or is that painting?
That's all paint.
All paint.
All those girls are naked.
Wow, naked girls on what were we just talking about?
That's cool.
What is this? What is this? Is this hash?
It's only hash.
What's it called?
Not some more glamorous
Diesel.
type of
Diesel?
photography.
What?
Diesel.
So
Oh.
this is all painted.
Who does this photography?
Clone Daddy brought some diesel
This
hash.
one I worked with. I
So
worked
we're
with a
doing
lot
that
of
too.
photographers. I've been on over like
Well,
I don't know. I've probably done
you know,
like 300 to 400
Wisecraft
of
here, he
these.
used to male model if you ever need one.
Yeah.
Oh, is that you? That's the lady herself. Oh my goodness.
I see.
Yeah, you're trying to kind of look like an ice queen there
Well, I was just kind of like,
because you look very serious.
yeah, I was very serious.
No,
That's
that's
my-
not you, is it?
That's my legalized ladybug. Nope, that's Katie Jane. She was Miss High Times October 2012. So I work with a lot of the High Times girls.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys going to be at any events coming up?
There's a couple coming up. I have to get my calendar and look. There's
Okay.
too many to
That's all right. You get that together.
But you can really always post on his page too when the events are.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then I have my Sugar Leaf Productions, which is my professional website where you can find I can do expert witness testimony if you're facing criminal charges in a cannabis case, paperwork, taxes, keeping everybody legal.
Believe you me, having a I hate to use this word, but articulate person in court representing you is very very surprising to them a lot, and it's very helpful to the case because a lot of times, again, they're just thinking we're this single stoner who's calling it medicine.
What I do?
Uh-oh. What are we broadcasting now? So just hit escape.
Okay.
So Clone Daddy.
Wait.
Sir.
Let's
We're
talk
not
a little
sharing
bit
now.
about
Hold
what
on.
happens. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're gonna pull up some. You're gonna pull up
Go ahead.
some links that we're gonna look up
For what?
for dates
Oh,
of events.
Oh, you want me to stop?
Or if you have flyers on here, pull up the flyer and they can see the flyer, and then we'll go ahead and put it on the website.
Here, I'll stop presenting first.
Okay, then you can find it, and then he can present
Yeah.
again.
Exactly.
So,
how do I
Clone Daddy,
Sir.
after we plant our plants
How do I make this close?
and we water them
Right.
properly,
Make it bigger.
and we nutrients them, give them nutrients them. I blame your hash. And we keep the proper pesticides. Okay. We read Enz Rosenthal's book. We watched a YouTube video. We were earnest, and now it's August, and we have a big plant, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And we're going to harvest it when?
Depends on the flowering time.
How do you know the flowering time?
Plant that you have, you will have
The strain?
Yeah, the strain you have. It depends on the strain you have, and the smart grower will have went and deduced the amount of flowering, the weeks of flowering, to be started on August 15th. Generally, you go from August 15th is when the light change happens, and it's going to August 15th is going to be the start date. From then on, though, it will determine when you're. So if you're going to be finishing 9-10 weeks by the end of October, you should be good.
Okay, so then we have medicine in October, and let's say we grew 2 plants. What are we getting out of that? A pound for 2 outdoor plants?
That depends on the grower
And the strain and the sun, the amount of sun.
grower and what the dirt, the size of the.
So we're
pot.
talking shade tree, not shade tree, that's a mechanic. We're talking backyard green thumb grower. Any guesstimates?
You can get
Heidi?
1 to 2 to 3 pounds per.
Oh, I was looking for this.
Clunk, what do you expect to get out of your backyard this year?
I don't know about here. Probably average around 5 plants.
I mean, how many pounds from a plant?
Yeah,
From
about
this
5.
from this yard
From this yard?
situation?
1
Maybe like 3/4 of a pound to 1 pound per plant.
Okay. So when you're like looking at your little clones at your club and you're like, ching, just keep in mind of the long process. How much is there an estimate with nutrients and everything? How much it costs to grow a plant? Does anybody have a ballpark?
I remember there was an algorithm for that. I think
It depends how big they are.
Okay.
Like if you're growing little tiny plants, it's not going to cost you that much.
Right.
It depends on how many lights you're running.
So let's go medium.
electricity.
You have a medium plant. How much does a medium plant
$400 to
cost?
$600. I read that
Well, like it depends on the plant, like if it's outdoors or indoor too.
And what you're doing with it, and time and energy, and
so. And then there's always a
throw
chance that somebody's going to come in and rip it out of your backyard. I really think that year I did it, people were picking pieces off of my plant because there were ripped parts. Then you have to harvest it. Then you have to what? I know, but because I've done, you cure it. What's curing?
You just keep it in. I highly recommend curing glass jars. Nothing better.
Well, you got to hang it up first, right?
Yeah, you hang it up to dry for.
Okay, and then how do you know it's dry?
When you can tell that it's dry, like you'll feel it, and it doesn't feel all spongy.
Again, read an Ed Rosenthal book. This is just very basic info. What I was told was the stem snaps. So you let it dry, and then when the stem is snappy, then you cure it. You put it in under glass. Some people use plastic.
We'll go ahead and get them all out and put them into a tote.
A tote.
When you're working with high volume, it's good if you don't have a lot and you can afford to use a glass jar. But if you're working with volume, the totes that you get are going to go ahead and keep it in a nice dryness and allow it to dry. You fill up the tote halfway, not all the way full of these newly dried buds because you get too wet. You let that sit, and then from there you start picking it and trimming it down to your liking.
So tell me this. Trimming bud, is that it? All of you? Is it cosmetic, or does it actually serve some sort of purpose?
I use that last thing, to your liking.
Okay.
So what that means is if somebody's going to go ahead and decide they're going to use that and cut it down for retail, of course they want to make it as pretty as they'd like. If somebody would want to go ahead and keep it for long term, I would definitely recommend to keep a lot of those shade leaves around it because it's going to help keep curing it for a long time. If you throw that into a bag, let that dry, those shade leaves will dry up and break off
naturally,
incidentally, and then it will still keep the bud cured.
So
I've seen bud
outer leaf can't hurt you, right?
Well,
it's just a little harsh to smoke.
Now, isn't there some discussion that it can help you? There's some say that there's compounds in the outer leaf that make it what was the word? That counter paranoia. Have you ever heard that one?
Really?
I heard that a while ago, but I don't have a source.
Combination of the leaf and the
If any of you doctors or scientists out there know the answer to that, please put it in our comments. That would be most fabulous.
Some of the best weed I've ever smoked was cured for a year. It was in the bag for the whole year. And we opened that thing, and it was from Apothecary Genetics, and it was just the bomb.
I've had that. I got this ratty bud one time, and I got mad, and I just left it in a bag. And then, later I found it, and it looked way better. I trimmed it, and it looked good. So, curing is very, very important. Gets the moisture out. It seems to make the flavor better because if you don't cure it right, you're going to taste chlorophyll.
We had a stack of totes from the season before, and I was pulling them out for the next season.
Yeah.
And there is a big old 10-inch spear that had got smashed in between the totes.
A spear is a long bud.
Right. And I was dry, and I trimmed it up, and we burned it, and it had a beautiful taste. So go figure, it was in between tote and just that inside there.
So this idea that Roseanne in her show Roseanne could have found 20-year-old weed in her attic and smoked it and got super high is real. I always thought that was bull.
Yeah, because
it's an oil.
Do you guys remember that episode? She got all high in her bathroom and her kid was outside. It was really funny.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, next week, we're going to segue. I have two topics we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about weed in the media, the weedia, and everything from the news all the way down to sitcoms. They have a very canophobic plot line on Modern Family about, what do you call it? Club owners, LA club owners living next door, and they're total white trash. I actually kind of find them adorable and realistic, but at the same time, I mean, I've met people like this. They're just they have a big boat in their yard and they party in the boat, and then and then the neighbors come over to talk to them about it, and they invite them to the party, and they kind of finally they go with it, and then they invite them into a four-way, and they keep talking about weed and the pot club, and the best part though was their daughter comes in, And she sees them and she goes, "Oh, I know you." And she goes, "Oh," and spins on her heel and leaves because she realizes she knows him because she's apparently a medical patient. So there's a lot of stuff to discuss in media. And then we're gonna talk about dispensaries. I'm gonna try to get some call in or join me people who are running dispensaries in town. And I want to discuss with people who their favorite dispensary is. And we'll be working on getting a guest list for that. And it should be lots of fun. We are getting close to an hour. Right now, we're just going to keep the podcast at an hour. We only had one viewer today. So maybe as it grows, we could extend it. But I think everybody got to say what they want to say.
Yeah.
We got 8 minutes. Okay. We're going to close out a little early. One last thing I wanted to say is I actually been writing for Sac Alt magazine for a while and for Sacramento Normal newsletter blog. And I've always been this language guy. Like, oh, don't say weed. That's offensive. It's not pot. And, oh, it's not dope. Dope is what millennials call meth. But that's generally and I'm backtracking here. It sounds bad, especially now that I work for Dope Magazine, which stands for Defending Our Patients Everywhere. And I love that it stands for that. Dope is also meaning the news, straight dope. Let's give me the straight dope, or this is dope. So on the show, we're going to have a complete, you can call it weed, you could call it pot. You're going to hear me joking about people's podacy, their magical journey when they first started smoking marijuana. And it's about intent. Okay. So if you're a newscaster and you're like, pot chops, then yeah, I'm going to say that's hate speech. But if you're just like, yeah, I love weed, dude, we're not going to even hassle on it. So I want to close the show out with a song from Real One. Do you have a recommendation, Heidi?
Number 10 again.
Oh, and I want to also give a shout out to the person who originally I was going to use bump music from, Isina and Ariel and their band, which is called Hekate's Riddle. You're going to be hearing a lot of their music also on the show, because any music that you own and give me permission to play, I will put on the show, so long as it's, I don't know, just, what I mean, not salacious or offensive or whatever. I hope that didn't just pop on the screen.
No.
So, did you give him the song?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, he's got the song. And so next week is going to be same time, 4:20. We may be coming from the California Cannabis Industry Association towers. Joking, it's a building over on 8th. We may just do it here in the C.H.E.S.S. Lounge. I like the C.H.E.S.S. Lounge because we are able to use our medicine while we're working, and it always makes it easier to do entertaining stuff when we're using our medicine. So if you're listening to this recorded, please like it, please share it, please subscribe. Hashtag WWWJTA is what we're going with. That's what were we just talking about. And are we got the music going? Oh, close out with the music. Again, I want to thank Wisecraft for producing. I want to thank Heidi Grossman for coming in. The Clone Daddy for coming in. Woo! Yeah! And that's exactly what I hoped we would get a whole through show not doing. Are we good?
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. And thank you, Clunk, which we say stands for Cannabis Loving Uber Nerdy Night, right? Clunk. Yeah. He's just my roommate, but he grows weed and he's awesome. And I just think everybody who believes in this plan is awesome. And I want to thank everybody. And we'll talk to you next week.
And to our fan.
Yes, to our fan, whoever you were. Thank you for tuning in.
Fans out there.
Maybe Shelby or Jacqueline. Jacqueline watched the normal thing. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So do we roll a big?
Yep. Go ahead.
I don't have no weed. All I have is mushrooms.
You need weed?